I read 1,000 Reddit stories about burnout. Different people, different jobs, different cities, but the reasons were almost the same. Not stress, not long hours, not even low pay. There was a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Over the past few weeks, I read posts from thousands of people talking about burnout. Office workers, teachers, engineers, retail employees, healthcare workers. Most of them were between their early 20s and mid-40s. This is not a scientific study, but when the same themes repeat again and again across jobs, ages, and income levels, it becomes something else, a signal. The first thing that surprised me was this. Most people weren't exhausted because they worked too much. They were exhausted because their effort felt pointless. People didn't say, "I work too many hours." They said things like, "I work all day, but nothing changes. I'm busy all the time, but I'm not building anything. I don't see a future here." Humans can tolerate hard work. They can tolerate pressure. They can even tolerate stress. What they can't tolerate is stagnation. Burnout begins when effort no longer leads to progress, when every week feels identical, when growth is promised but never arrives, when work turns into motion without meaning. The second pattern appeared even more often. People felt they had no control, not over their schedule, not over their workload, not over decisions that affected their day. They wrote things like, "My calendar isn't mine anymore. Everything is urgent. I'm monitored constantly. I'm treated like a replaceable part." Burnout accelerates when autonomy disappears. It's not just about being told what to do. It's about being unable to influence anything. When every decision comes from above and responsibility stays with you, people start emotionally disconnecting long before they quit. Here's where the stories became uncomfortable. Most people knew they were burned out, but they stayed. Not because they loved the job, not because they believed in the mission. They stayed because leaving felt impossible. Mortgage, health insurance, kids, student loans, fear of the job market. One sentence appeared again and again in different words. "I'm not happy, but I can't afford to leave." This is the quiet trap. You're functional enough to keep going, but exhausted enough to stop dreaming. And over time, that drains more energy than the job itself. Burnout doesn't look like a breakdown. Most people didn't describe panic attacks or dramatic collapses. They described emptiness. "I don't feel sad. I feel nothing." Weekends don't help anymore. Vacation didn't fix it. "I'm tired before the day even starts." Burnout is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It slowly removes motivation, curiosity, and emotional response. People don't notice it happening. They just notice that they no longer care. After burnout became impossible to ignore, people usually followed one of three paths. The first group quit suddenly. They described relief, freedom, breathing again. But after a few months, anxiety often replaced relief. No plan, no structure, new pressure. The second group stayed, but emotionally checked out. They stopped trying, stopped caring, did the minimum. This is the longest and quietest form of burnout. It can last for years. The third group was the smallest. They didn't make one big decision. They made small ones. They changed roles, reduced hours, moved teams, started side projects, set boundaries. Burnout rarely ends with a dramatic exit. It ends with small, consistent shifts. After reading all these stories, one thing became clear. Most people didn't burn out because they were weak. They burned out because the system demanded endurance without progress, because it normalized overload, because it rewarded availability instead of results, because it treated people as infinite resources. Burnout is not a personal failure. It's a signal that something isn't sustainable. If you recognize yourself in these stories, you're not broken. And you're definitely not alone. Burnout doesn't mean you chose the wrong career. It means something in your current setup needs to change. Not all at once, not dramatically, but deliberately. So here's my question to you. What part of burnout do you recognize the most?